The game has changed. What was okay 5 years ago is not okay today. Well, frankly, what was okay 2 years ago when it comes to rent control is not okay today. Here you have a property manager slash investor who was attempting to comply with the law by following, by issuing the notices, by showing permits, by saying what they thought probably was the right thing. And here the city is making an example out of them. This isn't going to get better for landlords. This is going to get worse. All right, welcome to another episode of the Accidental Landlord. Today, we are going to be talking about a very interesting thing that's happening here locally in Santa Barbara, which is the county and city right north of where we're at. There has been a property manager slash investor who's been charged criminally for not following a just cause eviction ordinance that the city of Santa Barbara passed. So this is extremely interesting because, actually, let me back up. I just want to say first off, I have no insider information. I don't know the people involved in this case, although it is right next door to us. I've never heard of this person before, so I am literally reporting on what articles, and I looked at the complaint is available in the public record, so I don't have any connection to this case in any way, shape, or form. But essentially what it is there is a gentleman, his name's James Knapp. He is part owner of an apartment complex in Santa Barbara. It sounds like he has some partners, and he's also possibly the property manager. And understand, this is if you believe everything that is written in the articles that are available on this subject, which sometimes I'm skeptical about that. But I mean, the lawsuit's real. The public filings are real. So there's definitely some truth to the story. But as far as all the details, just understand that we are getting it from readily available articles that are on the internet. So and let me also set the stage. Obviously, we have statewide rent control in California. It started with Senate Bill 1482, then moved to Senate Bill 567. We've got podcasts and things on those. This is not a podcast about what that is. This particular case, the city of Santa Barbara themselves passed an ordinance on rent control and just cause eviction. And their ordinance is more complex than the statewide ordinances that are in place. And the people who are suing and pursuing this is the city of Santa Barbara. It's a criminal complaint. So on the criminal complaint, it says the state of California versus James Knapp. I don't know if I'm even saying his last name properly or not. However, that's what this is. So he's not like he violated Assembly Bill 1482 or Senate Bill 567. It's this Santa Barbara ordinance, which honestly is very similar to the other ones. And it's so confusing, it's hard to differentiate. But the premise of the story goes something like this. Him and his partners own an apartment complex. Sounds like the apartment complex has some dilapidated electrical system. So if anybody knows what knob and tube wiring is, I think it was used in the 50s. Totally unsafe, not really suitable for today's electrical environments. And it sounds like they were trying to fix that. They were trying to upgrade the apartment complex's electrical systems. So they gave notice to a portion of their tenants. It doesn't sound like all of them. I don't know the details, but notice was given to multiple tenants that you have to move. And the reason you have to move is because we're doing this upgrade to the property that is required to make the property habitable. And it's going to be longer than 30 days. So you guys have to move. I'm sorry. The tenants elicited the assistance of the Legal Aid Foundation, I believe. Let me just verify. Yeah, the Legal Aid Foundation to defend against this notice that they had to move, this eviction. The Legal Aid Foundation, which, by the way, they have these types of organizations in pretty much all the cities in California where a tenant has access to legal help via attorneys to fight things like this. So, which is why it's really important that we follow the law and we do things the right way, because it's not hard for your tenant to go get an attorney. And this is a perfect example. So the Legal Aid Foundation fights it, causes a stink, city notices, city looks into it, city makes a decision that they're going to file misdemeanor charges against this gentleman. And they do. And it's definitely hasn't been resolved. This just happened a month or two ago. I think it's been extended into June sometime. We don't have resolution for this, but I think it's important for our listeners to understand that the stakes keep getting higher. And as they pass more legislation, as they create more rules, as they alter the way a landlord operates their business, there becomes increased risk to us, because this, for obvious reasons, this guy is facing a criminal case against him for what he did. Now, if you look at the article, and we'll link to the article so everyone can look at this themselves, and I'm not here to read an article by any means, but according to the complaint, 3 misdemeanor counts have been filed against him involving terminating tenancy without just cause, failure to abide by the city's just cause ordinance, and neglecting to serve appropriate permits. So I think from what I could tell, not only do they have to give notice, but they also have to prove that they have permits and how long it's going to take and all of this, things like this. It looks like they served these eviction notices to 11 tenants at a 52-unit complex over a period between January and April. So it wasn't like it was just a one-time thing. The attorney for James Knapp, he made a statement saying he's never seen a landlord criminally prosecuted for serving an eviction notice. And he went on to state that they're trying to work closely with the city's attorney's office to resolve the issue. Their argument in another article I was reading was basically that they were trying to follow the law. They served the notice. They said they had permits, but because the city didn't think that it was adequate and that they didn't put the exact timeline, and frankly, sometimes in a construction project, you don't know the timeline. You start uncovering things that you didn't anticipate, and timelines frequently get delayed and extended in construction. In fact, we have a project going on a short-term rental that's been delayed multiple times. A lot of the times out through no fault of anyone's, just sometimes things happen when you do big construction projects. So they're basically nailing him with that. Here you have a property manager / investor who was attempting to comply with the law by by issuing the notices, by showing permits, by saying what they thought probably was the right thing. And here the city is making an example out of them. That is not a spot that I don't think anybody wants to be in. This is the first time I've heard of somebody getting criminally charged in reference to this city ordinance in Santa Barbara. Frankly, I haven't heard of anybody getting it from the statewide law that just passed, the Senate Bill 567 either. So everyone's watching this. The article goes on to talk about how the local mom and pops landlords in the community are scared. This is going to cause them to maybe not do things, just leave the properties as is, because they don't want to, have fear of being criminally charged for doing their job as a landlord. So that's some potential ramifications for what's going on. Just so for people who aren't aware, just cause eviction ordinances typically basically say you can no longer just tell your tenant, hey, in 60 days you have to move, and not provide a reason. Typically, you have to provide a reason on why that we're asking you to move. In this case, because they wanted to do these upgrades for the safety of the property and the tenants, that's what they were trying to say. And it obviously, according to the city, didn't cut the mustard for that. So there's legal consequences for this. This is the article. We'll link to the article and to the actual complaint. So if you want details and specifics, feel free to look it up. We'll make it easy for you to look up. But the rest of our podcast is going to go over more. What can we extract from this? Like, this is a terrible case. I feel bad for that guy. Whether he was right or wrong, I don't know. Not really our position to say. I guess they'll hash that out in the court or come to a settlement or something. But what we can learn as landlords, especially accidental landlords, is we have to take these laws seriously. In the past, some of these laws that the state would pass didn't have any teeth behind them. In fact, that's why Senate Bill 567 came about, because when they passed Assembly Bill 1482, the consequences were like almost nothing. So people weren't following it, which made the state come back and say, oh, you're not following it, we'll make it worse. We'll put some real consequences behind it. And after they do that, they're going to want to demonstrate that they are willing to do these things. This is a perfect example in Santa Barbara. So in the past, some people would turn their nose up at a new law or new ordinance and go, they're not going to do anything to me. They got real criminals to catch. Well, this is just them putting everyone on notice that they are going to do something about it, and there are people that are willing to file criminal charges against you. So what does this mean for us? it's happening. It's starting to happen. My guess is this isn't going to be the first time, and hopefully no one associated with us or that listened to the show is going to be made an example of. But what are you supposed to do? And here it is. Here it is in the long and short of it. Follow the law. Here's a problem, though. Sometimes the law is not easy to follow. I've read through most of these laws word for word, and they are vague. They sometimes conflict with other laws that you also are required to follow. So what are you supposed to do about that? Just throw your hands up and go, forget it, I'm not going to follow anything? Well, that's clearly the wrong answer. The correct answer is, if you're doing anything that you think is related to these laws, talk to an attorney. And don't talk to any attorney. Definitely not like some legal service that you pay $20 a month for and you'll get a letter written. You need to talk to an attorney who understands landlord-tenant law and also is up to date on all the new laws that are being passed. That's the best thing to do. And frankly, even if you do that, there's no guarantee that some vigilante city is not going to try to make an example out of you. But if you come and you have the right intentions and you do what you think is the right thing to do and you get competent legal advice, more than likely you're going to be okay. It's the people who don't. There are a lot of landlords out there who just kind of wing it. I had a conversation with one recently who basically told me he does his own thing and he just pays the fines with one of the cities in our areas, which is a terrible strategy. And eventually that's probably going to bite him for doing that. You don't want to be a landlord like that. And I think in the past, years ago, 5, 10, 15 years ago, that is something that people could get away with. But I don't think going forward it is, especially as these tenant organizations get stronger and more political and more vocal. We're going to be seeing more of this where people are actually getting charged criminally with things. So make sure you stay legally compliant. Know the laws. You can't operate a landlord business and keep your head in the sand and not understand all these laws that they're passing. The game has changed. What was okay 5 years ago is not okay today. Well, frankly, what was okay 2 years ago when it comes to rent control is not okay today. And it depends what city you're in, what county you're in. All of these things matter, which is why you have to do your due diligence and talk to an attorney. And if you are going to take action like this unfortunate property manager did, keep detailed documentation. Detailed documentation about the legal advice, all the steps you took. It's in your best interest, because make no mistake, that's all going to be a factor in this case as he has to fight to not be convicted of these criminal charges that they're charging him with. The other thing that you can do is not do any of this yourself. That's a strategy. Hire experts who already deal with this and already understand the laws. And a lot of times those are professional property management companies. We stay on top of these laws. We consult with attorneys all the time. Frankly, when we have to do something related to one of these laws that is in any way ambiguous or vague, we are on the phone with our attorney. That's an incredible amount of leverage that you, as a landlord, can get by hiring a competent management company. Now, I'm not here to defend management companies, but there's plenty of management companies that are bad who don't even understand these new laws themselves. So do your homework, do your due diligence, make sure you're hiring one that does stay on top of these things, that does understand the political environment, and who follow these same principles. So that's one way you can handle this. I'm here to tell you, as someone who stays on top of these laws, who actively seeks out this information and stays on top of which laws are in committee and which ones are coming out and which ones aren't, it's difficult to do. And we do it professionally, and there's not a week that goes by that I'm not looking at something or trying to, educate myself on something or reading a legal update from our law firm that we work with closely. It's hard to do. So, and this is what we do professionally. So I can only imagine what someone who's managing properties on the side for themselves, how difficult that's going to be, which is difficult as well. So that is it in a nutshell. This is not a complex thing. This is just mainly a wake-up call that times are changing. We have to pay attention. I don't want to see a landlord get fined or have a criminal record. I would be highly surprised if this person went to jail for something like this, but you never know. And you never know what the future holds. And, this could be setting a precedent for cases to come in the future. But in conclusion, to wrap this up, this is just like a cautionary tale for us who are in the landlord business to pay attention, stay on top of the laws, do your best to follow them, talk to an attorney, stay informed, engage professionals, keep good records. We're here to provide a service, and that service is housing. There's a lot of parties that are involved with it. We need to make sure that we're on top of our game and we're doing it the right way. Now, I will say as a side note, I don't personally agree with these laws. I think these laws are terrible. I think these laws are counterproductive. I think they actually make it worse for the tenants that they're trying to control rents for and keep housing affordable. I don't agree with pretty much any of them. I'm pretty passionate about my belief that this is the wrong strategy to protect housing and lower housing costs and whatnot. But guess what? That doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, my personal opinion on these laws, because they're laws. So we have an obligation to follow the laws if we want to be in this business. It doesn't matter that I personally think the laws are bad or the laws are unethical or wrong. Doesn't matter. And you need to look at it the same way. But that's hard to do sometimes because there is a sense of right and wrong, and what we feel, is right and wrong. And in the end, it doesn't matter because I'm sure the gentleman who is being charged with these crimes probably felt like he was doing the right thing. And now look where he's standing. The other thing I want to say is the politicians, the people who are making these laws, they're the ones that are causing a big part of this problem because it's really expensive to build housing in California. And there's 1,000 hoops you got to jump through. And you got school district fees and sewer fees and any kind of assessment the cities or the counties put on it. They're the ones that cause this problem and or are currently causing the issues. They're looking for scapegoats. Okay, we really screwed this up. We made it really hard for people to build, like it's literally adding hundreds of thousands of dollars per unit versus places that don't have as much regulation. Well, we're not going to change that because we like the tax revenue that all this stuff provides us. Let's look at a different way to go about this, and hence income rent control laws and more regulations on landlords. Like landlords are the problem. The problem is lack of housing because they don't make it affordable and they make it extremely difficult for people to build. That's my personal opinion. Again, irrelevant when it comes to this issue, but I just felt like I wanted to say that because this is so crazy to me that we've come this far and we're continuing to go down this path. And my personal opinion is this isn't going to get better for landlords. This is going to get worse. And I think it's going to get a lot worse before the people who make the laws and the rules, the politicians, go, oh, maybe we went too far. Maybe now we have way less landlords because we threw a couple of them in jail and we make it really difficult for them to do their job. Guess what? They're selling their properties, making this problem even worse, which is the direction it's heading. I'm very optimistic, and I think that overall this will work itself out eventually, but I think we're in for some more pain, some more uncomfortableness, some more of stories like this, people getting charged with crimes. And that's unfortunate that we've gotten to where we've gotten. But if you want to be in this business, in the areas that we're in, you have to get on board. You have to follow the law. That'll do it. I appreciate you guys listening to my mini rant. I read this article and I was like immediately, I need to bring this to our listeners of the podcast because it's too important. There's too much at risk, and there's good people who are landlords, good people who are tenants, and I don't want to see anybody get screwed because they're not paying attention and they don't understand what's happening and what these new laws mean for everybody. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. If you know anybody that has rental property in our area or California or anywhere really, send it to them because the more people that are made aware of this, the better off everyone will be. Thank you guys.